Luke Nation, episode 739.
Woo!
And today's will be kind of subtitled, like that on the on the slabs. You have the name of the card, and then you have that subtitle. It's Candid Conversations with Cage. That's what we're gonna kind of subtitle it. And guys, you're gonna have a blast from today's episode. I already have a feeling. We've had kind of a warm-up round, and I was listening to something the other day about business advice. Right, I pack up all your guys' whatnot slabs, hundreds of packages a week, and I need to pass the time. So sometimes I listen to music. Sometimes I'm like, how do we grow Luca Nation? How can we grow our business? And Charlie Munger talks about when you're starting with any idea, don't find all the reasons why it's going to work. His thought process is inversion thinking. It's find all the reasons why something wouldn't work and avoid them. So, for example, when finding a business partner, find someone who has the exact same skills that you do. That's a sure way to fail. I'm lucky. I basically found someone who's the opposite. Handsome, smart, funny. I'll leave it to you guys to decide which is which on that one. But we got to talking, are we doing the right things with Luca Nation? Is the Whatnot show profitable? Is it profitable as a consignment show? Is it profitable buying slabs off PWCC and other auction houses? Is the way to do it grading, then consigning? So we got to talking, and it was fun, and I'll kind of leave it there because we got in a whole bunch of discussions. And then someone from our Luca Nation network left us a comment, and I could read it to you, Cage. And I'm curious what you think. So this was on our show called How Whatnot Helps You Get a Pulse on the Sports Card Market.
I like it.
So I thought this was one of the best comments, and I'm curious what you think just in general. You could take this in a million different directions. So he said, Whatnot has played a major role in prices dropping, approving every seller application under the sun, cards selling every 30 seconds on thousands of different accounts. People who have never sold a card in their life are now selling off their entire collection in a couple streams. Whatnot saturated the market at an accelerated rate, and people wonder why prices have dropped so much. If they're ever made Whatnot comps public, it would destroy the market as some low-end cards go for way higher than eBay, and high-end cards go for much lower than eBay. It's not only the economy that is hurting the card market, Whatnot has played a major role. People have that can't miss out factor and spend all their money that they would spend at shows, eBay, etc. I like Whatnot, don't get me wrong, but I think it's played a huge role in the downtrend of cards. So I thought that was one of the most fascinating, well thought out comments that we've gotten. And can I read you my response and then you tell me what you think?
Sure.
I said, I read this comment to Cage because it rang so true. But I think we generally think of falling prices as a bad thing. Frankly, in my opinion, it's setting a true equilibrium. Where cards like base Prism PSA 10s were selling for $500 for guys who never did anything, which is truly insane for the print count. I think your comment is truly one of my favorite of all time, and it made me think.
Who's the genius who posted it? You want to give him some credit? Give him some airtime?
It's Card Porn, also known as Cage Lawyer.
No, because then people will think that we're coming up with a topic that I just generated by putting a comment in there. So whoever it is that posted,
they could go to the video. How Whatnot helps you get a pulse on the sports card market.
Okay, that's good.
I don't want
action there.
Sometimes I've mention people's names on here, Cage, and I don't know if they want to stay private or public.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, you're right. We should protect the privacy of somebody who commented on YouTube in the public comment section. No, it's fine. Tell people you can you can find it on YouTube, guys. So here
find it
on the line. No, you take a picture. You take it, you put it on the line. Good job. You know what you just did? You brought a movie quote into the episode before I did. You're all grown up, and I love it. So
Whatnot's not working. This podcast isn't going to work and make me a millionaire like I've wanted to.
All right, that's two topics.
I'm going to be an actor. I've decided I'm going to go to Hollywood.
It's good.
Or Hollywood.
Okay, so one, if you really want to be an actor, comedian, whatever it is, I watched the Chappelle thing yesterday where he just gave a speech because the school he went to was trying to name their I guess like an auditorium or one of the buildings after him, and ultimately he turned it down and said, "When you're ready for me, because hey, I just did that one and you guys came after me. You know, the last thing that I did, you guys didn't like it. So when you're ready for me, you can put my name right up here." But he gave a great speech, and I don't want to ruin it. I definitely don't want to ruin it by paraphrasing it. But you know, if you want to do something, he gave a great kind of like history of how he did it. And what I took from it is, one, he had people helping him, and two, he did it his way. Right, even when you know everything was great, he left and walked away and went to Africa. I mean, like he did it his way, and you know, there's. But more importantly,
he left Chappelle Show because of Comedy Central, and for basically 12 years, Chappelle Show was super famous, super popular. Comedy Central screwed him over, and he was like, "I'm going to go off the map. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to walk away from it." So yeah, absolutely right.
So it's an interesting thing, but the key part there is, you know, he there's an ego. He's like, I'm a once in a generation. I may be a once in a lifetime talent. And he means it, right? He means it. And I think if you're going to be an actor or a comedian, whatever it is, you have to have that in you also, which is, you know, the fake quote from Ja, I didn't mind it so much because the reason why these guys get to where they get to is because they have that ego. They really believe that they're the best at what they do. And I think you will succeed at something because you do believe. And we always have these conversations where it's like, how come this person's doing this? I'm doing better. I don't do that. And we'll get to why for the answer, right? So you talk about two things. One, the whatnot selling and whether or not that's the path for you. But the bigger picture of whatnot, that comment is, you think whatnot is bad for the hobby, that it's actually causing prices to go down. And that if the data from whatnot sells everyone out there, it would be bad for the hobby. Remember the title of the episode, or the point of the episode was that whatnot, you can learn from whatnot. And what are we learning from whatnot? You're learning as a potential seller on whatnot, what sells, what doesn't, how to sell, what people are asking for, the cards people are looking for, and a little bit of kind of like the next phase of how transactions are going to be done. It's not just card show sign up that says, don't talk to me about comps. I'm an old curmudgeon. Go away, pay my price. It's, we're going to entertain you as we sell. There's going to be freebies. There's going to be spinny wheels. There's going to be a show. And some of the biggest accounts on Whatnot are all about the show. Some of the biggest accounts out there that do lives are all about the show with the shirts off.
Look at the show. Involuntary muscle spasm. Look at the show.
But, I mean, we all love to be entertained, right? We all look at...
Drop that in the comments if you know what movie that's from.
Give a little movie for his muscle spasms. You know, I mean, Lamine James does a great job of it, right? But still telling a little bit of a hobby story. The meme he put out there with Ali G, with the PSA subs, 99999.88999. Hilarious, right? So you gotta be a little entertaining. That comment is wrong. Okay? It's got a level of being right in it, that Whatnot is doing something to pricing and Whatnot is impacting, pricing and the hobby. But it's wrong. I believe Whatnot is a balance. The equilibrium you talked about in your commentary back is, I mean, it's a big word with a lot of syllables for you. But you're right? We come on here and we talk about how certain comps just should be thrown out. We do a show, collectible, fractional, and we say, hey, there's a golden auction. Hey, there's a PWCC auction. This comp is from alt. Take that with a grain of salt, guys. Why? Because you had to fund the account beforehand. And I don't hear anybody commenting about how alt is bad for the hobby because the prices you're getting on there are low, right? Low prices. I think everybody just says, oh, the price would be higher, right? Don't trust the alt comp. The price would be higher. They just don't have as many people on there because you have to fund it ahead of time. Whatnot is legit the pendulum in the exact opposite direction. Almost no barrier to buying, right? I mean, you just go on and you pay, right? You have an account that's set up to buy in like 37 seconds, right? Yep. And a very small barrier for selling. So any of the issues with, the big auction houses, the vetting process, the whole deal, to buy and to sell on there is the easiest thing in the world. That creates liquidity. Now, I believe it also presents an opportunity for things to be sold probably lower, things to be sold probably higher. There are a lot of variables. somebody who might be selling their cards who hasn't built up a following and has 10 people in there might sell a card for significantly lower than what it would sell for. They might be going live on Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and people in California are just waking up. Or there's so many variables with it that, to say that Whatnot is the reason why card prices are going down, I disagree with that. I truly do. I appreciate it. I understand the point that's being made, but I think the flip side is maybe because the barrier to liquidity was so high, you didn't get a real gauge of what the prices were. And that this is part of the reason, right? That people say buy rare stuff, buy things that don't come up for auction every month.
Talk about that. I think what
go ahead.
Whatnot does an amazing job of doing, or I'll rephrase it. What I've learned from selling on Whatnot is scarcity is actually what we're looking for. The cards that sell over comps are the cards that people haven't seen readily every single time they've opened Instagram or an auction house or eBay, and they're like, whoa, that's kind of cool. So those are the cards that sell well. I actually think Prism PSA 10s, as cheap as they are going to even find another tier down where it's like those are the dollar box cards, because those are not rare, those are not scarce, and those are not in demand.
But my hoops stuff is going to be awesome. Hoops, let's go. I got a whole bunch of hoops coming back from PSA. No, so I get the point. I understand the point. And there are layers of it that I probably would agree with. But overall, what I think is Whatnot just came up with another way for sellers to sell to buyers. Does it hurt shows? Sure. 100%. I mean, you go on Whatnot and you click a few buttons and you're in a Pokemon stream. You're in a somebody selling slabs basketball, somebody selling NFL. And if you were going to go to a show and spend your money on an NFL card, well, you can go on Whatnot. You don't have to leave your house. You're probably going to, not overpay. I saw a comment recently about a card show where somebody says, on the video that that we posted about the Nationals not for buying cards, somebody commented in there about how they go to card shows and they, feel pressure to buy because I'm at a show. I mean, I spent the money to come here. I spent the money. I spent the time. I spent the, the gas. I'm going to buy something. And, you often leave saying, I probably spent a little too much for this card, but I didn't want to, spend a couple hours of the show driving a whole 9 yards and then leave empty-handed. What's the point of going to a show? Whatnot. You got your half-gallon ice cream, you're sitting on the couch, you're watching BoJack Horseman or whatever it is you got on the TV behind you, and you're, you buy or you don't buy. And nobody's there, giving you the hard sell. Nobody's judging what you paid, what you didn't pay. There's probably not a lot of influencer cameras behind you saying, oh, look at this idiot made this deal. What's wrong with him? Or I just ripped this guy off. You know what I mean? So it's a different methodology. And I think it's very necessary right now because people are getting back cards that they just don't want. People are getting back cards that they just want to get whatever they can on them. Yep. I have a lot of friends who submitted cards to PSA, and have waited 2 years on them now. Some of them are out of the hobby. Some of them just say, all right, just sell it, get whatever it is. I completely forgot about these, and, the money's already sunk cost. Just, get what you can get for it. That may not last, but there's a lot of that going on Whatnot right now. And if you don't believe me, every once in a while, KK Cards, the group subber, will post a story. Hey, here's 10 names. We got your subs back. Where are you? Your Instagram account is not here anymore. We got your cards. Don't you want them? It happens. And a lot of stuff coming back now, I think if you brought it to a show, it might not sell. On Whatnot, you start out at $1, and the seller's willing to take whatever a buyer's willing to pay, create some liquidity. I didn't want to do a Whatnot, advertisement, but I will pivot off to this. Normally we come on here, we don't talk. I don't know where the topic's going to go. Andrew will tell me DeAndre Ayton's going to Indiana, and I'll do a whole thing about how he's going to Indiana. We'll finish our episode and be like, shit.
That did not age well at all.
He was out there for 3 minutes, and we'll talk about that. We'll get to that for the show, but I don't want to go off Whatnot just yet, right? You talked about, being able to bounce ideas off a business partner. Munger's a great idea because, he's an old man. So he went out there and got a partner who's young and sprightly and, I mean, Warren Buffett. He's so. But in any event, we did have a little conversation, before this episode, and you phrased it in the beginning here during the show, and you said, "Hey, I'm going to sell on whatnot. I'm going to make some profit. I'm going to make some money." Now, there are people out there who are in a similar boat to you, right? They're trying to make money in the hobby, whether it's by putting out content, whether it's making videos, whether it's trying to buy cards and sell cards, whether it's doing, group submissions, whether it's, cracking slabs. People are doing this stuff. And it's people who may have had some success doing it last year that are finding less success. And I guess what I want to bring to the table here is this. Your success is going to depend how you measure it, right? And this is an important thing for folks, right? So Andrew is one of these guys that always asks me, what's my goal, right? He has these probing questions. He should be like a psychoanalyst, but it's way too much school, right? So it's what's your goal? And I'm like, my goal?
Make that way. I'd rather just sell $4 slabs for $6 than.
So let's get there, right?
An hour. Why would I be a therapist that makes out $250 an hour?
So
40 hours a week.
What's the goal? And I'll always answer like, my goal is to have enough money to make sure I got my Chick-fil-A this week. And you're like, forget about this week. Your goal's got to be like this goal. What's your goal? And finally, after being asked,
dream is probably the word I use.
The dream. What's your dream? You know,
big dream.
I mean, my dream. I got some dreams. I'm gonna. I don't know what my dreams are. And
your dream is Leah coming home from camp early.
Yeah, that'll happen. But if you're in this and you're trying to do this, my hobby involvement, and I'll be as honest as you can here. I mean, I have a job. You know what I mean? My hobby here is I want to buy some cards. I want to be able to, so we'll get there. And I want to be able to, buy cards when I want to buy them. I want to sell cards when I want to sell them. I can lose money on cards. I can make money on cards. I have fun with it. It's it is a hobby. I try to collect. I'm always moving my collection around. Sometimes I'm degenning. I open packs every Friday. I got some select UFC to open with Ian later. And, I have fun with it, but it's because I am not looking at the hobby to make me a millionaire. Okay? And if that was my goal, then I'd have to plot out whether or not what I'm doing is going to get me to that goal. But if my goal was to make $1,000 a month in the hobby, that's going to require something different in the hobby than making millions. Success is going to depend on what that goal is, what you want out of the hobby. So when we talk about, I'm doing all this stuff, I'm selling on whatnot, I'm doing all this stuff, my first question always is, well, what's the goal? Because you can be successful. You are making money. You are making money on whatnot. You are making money cracking slabs. You are making money. But the question then becomes twofold. One, is it going to get to your goal? Is your goal making enough money that you can do this instead of a 9-to-5? You can do this instead of trying to work on lettuce, then fries. Then you be assistant manager. And that's when the big bucks start rolling in. Can you do enough with cards and make enough money with cards to avoid that? And is that enough? Right? If it's not enough, I don't know whether or not consignments and cracking and all these other things are going to make you millions. And here's why. It's a volume, man. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. I give you a lot of credit for it because you're spending a lot of time doing it. And you have to, at some point, take a step back and say, all right, I sold all these cards, right? And I made $100 today. But to get that $100,
I worked 12 hours.
I worked 12 hours. Right.
So I'm netting $8 an hour. And I'm not keeping that great of track of things. So when the IRS comes knocking, they can see the $100. So I might actually owe money after this whole endeavor.
Yeah. And, we'll do the podcast from prison. And, it'll be amazing.
Prison might.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be a lot of fun, man. So, I mean, the point there is It was easier before. It's not easy now. And more importantly, you have to know what you want out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess it's also harder now. I saw a breaker post something about not about when his breaks fill, that people are backing out. Hey, it was like an angry post. It was like, hey, stop, stop claiming teams, and then when the break fills and it's time to do the break, you back out. It's the kind of post you just didn't see a year ago. And when the going was good for everyone, when there was a new grading company every week and everybody was getting their PSA 10s back really quick and flipping them, and everybody was just selling stuff for more than what they bought it for. We've talked about how the hobby is no different than everything else. There are cycles. And I mean, I mentioned this to you, right? Not because I'm not trying to say like, oh, this is horrible. You're making money. It just, is it enough and is it worth your time? Especially in this environment, because, there are people who bought Rolexes in 2018, 19, and they sold them for a lot in 20 and 21. The people who bought them in 21 are now selling them at a loss because even the luxury watch market is going down. The crypto market is going down. You've watched NFTs. You've watched Top Shot. You've watched all of these things, right? And it's tougher sledding now in the hobby. But this is taking this from a different perspective. 80% of the people who were in the hobby in 2018 will listen to the first 20 minutes of the episode and say, this is what's wrong with the hobby. It's called a hobby. The people who came in and tried to call it an industry, the people who came in and tried to call it a business, they tried to morph this hobby into something that it became for a very short period of time. And it has become that several times in its history, and it will become it again, right? The hobbyists are saying, what the hell is he talking about? We're not in this to make money and make a business out of it. You're not supposed to be able to buy a card on Sunday and sell it to somebody on Thursday for more than what you paid. That just doesn't make sense. But for a year or two, it did. That's what everybody was doing. Make sense? The hobby people are saying, well, I just want to buy cards. I want to talk about cards. I've been here for a long time, and I held my cards. I enjoy my cards. I just want to own my awesome cards, my collection of whoever it is.
So one question and then my take.
Shoot.
For the people out there that have ambition, that love, I'm not going to use the word the hobby, I'm going to use this, that love collecting, they love investing, speculating, they love sports, and they like cards and this whole industry.
Yep.
So they're ambitious and they like this industry.
Yes.
How do they become millionaires?
In the hobby over the next couple of years, they probably don't. But what will happen is, over the next couple of years, the same thing that has happened after every other hobby boom will happen. People will leave. People will come, Ray. People will leave. Prices will come down. Grading costs will come down. The printing of the cards will be less. There will be cards that are scarcer. There will be cards that are numbered. There will be cards that people can obtain. And what's amazing is, the quote out there of like, hey, once your dentist starts telling you to buy a stock, it's too late, right? Everybody's in on it, right? The reason why a lot of people were able to make money in the hobby, especially the ones who were here before this boom, is because they were here before the boom. So you want to make $1 million in the hobby? It's easy. You just got to stay. You got to stay through this. Buy now, which we could talk about that in a second too, right? Because a lot of people don't have the liquidity to buy the cards and the whole 9 yards right now. You got to stay. You got to make sure you're positioned in the right stuff. And then in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whenever the hell the next swing up comes around after things kind of reset, those people can make millions. There were people who were buying the LeBron exquisite RPA for $100,000. There were people who were buying it for $10,000 if you go a window back. That's a quality asset. And then they were selling it for $1 million.
So
right?
Is the lesson then, let's use the hypothetical, like the buy Sunday, sell Thursday, the people that are breaking or the people that are consigning or whatever, they're churning out $100K a year, $45K a year, $60K, but not matching their ambitious goals of like $5 million, right? you're not going to make that money in your business, but you might learn a lot about what the market's doing and be able to color up into the best assets. And if you're able to hold through, those best assets might get you to the 6, 7, 8 figures.
Yes, 100%. And breaking is right now a different animal. Breaking can be successful for as long as there are people who are willing to gamble. So remember, you're trying to do this in a way where it's not gambling, right? Casinos make money, right? But a casino is not telling you, come in, buy chips, go to your room for 3 days, and sell your chips for more than you bought them for 3 days ago. That was the hobby. That was the hobby. What the casino says is, come in, buy chips, put your chips on the table, and a few of you are going to leave with more chips. Most of you are going to leave with less chips, and some are going to leave with no chips. That's breaking. Breaking is more of gambling. There was less gambling going on in the hobby before. And even breaking was less of a gamble because the price you were paying to get in a break was less. And you were able to sell what you got out of the break for more. And you were able to sell more of what you got out of the break. So I think what you're going to see is, that breaking may take kind of like part of the sports betting. It might take some of the sports betting folks. It might take some of the degenerate, side of the hobby. Not said in the wrong way. That's degen. I'm not calling you guys degenerates. Breaking may have more legs. Consignment, I'd be a little more worried about. Because what makes consignment go is hobby participants who are looking to consign their items to hobby participants who will want to buy those items. And
you didn't tell me my audio wasn't good this whole episode.
Your audio's fine. No issues with your audio at all.
One of the things that I love about what we do, guys, in my 20s, I was still this ambitious. I've always been very ambitious. Even though like soccer was my first love, when I was 8 years old, I remember like I pointed to this mansion to my grandma. I was like, I'm going to buy you that house. I've always really loved business and dreaming and ambition. So like I've always had that. But in my 20s, it was like out of control, blind in a million different directions. Probably to Cage, he's like, if that was in your 20s, holy crap, right? But here's what I think the blessing for you listeners is, because this still is our number one, is the podcast. It's truly the thing that gives us the most purpose, at least for me. What I think we offer to the community, the hobby, that no one else does, is the contrast. Not the contrast in that we think of contrast as like hate, but not that contrast. It's the different visions mixing, and you guys get to be the beneficiaries of like kind of like hearing and learning. Because I think some people are closer to where Cage is in his career and life. They have kids, they have a stable job, and they just collect and they love this. They've been doing this. There's a lot of our listeners that are that. There's a lot of our listeners who are also ambitious young people who've come into the hobby in 2020, 2021, who saw it as a way to get rich and live the life of their dreams and live life on their own terms. And there's probably some people in the middle. But the beauty of it is these are real life conversations. This is the stuff that we do talk about behind the scenes. We've said a lot to you guys that our best episodes sometimes are the ones that have never aired, because they are truly discussions about, not just which card to buy or which player is going to pop off or Ohtani's not going to have, this is what history says about the second half of the MLB season. Mm-hmm. Cage is proven right again. It's also how to view business within this industry, right? And I think you guys are the true beneficiaries of all that. When you get to listen and hear and be like, oh, that resonated. Oh, I am trying to do that.
Well, I mean, I don't want to sound like a perma bear, which somebody called me this week, right? Somebody said, oh, Cage is a perma bear. He's like, I'm always a bear. And I'm not bearish on the hobby.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
My dad's spirit animal, we like went through the animals. My mom is a fox, very sly woman, very scary woman, sly. My sister's a dolphin. My dad is a bear. I'm a porcupine, believe it or not.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I'm a man.
You remind me of Papa G. By the way, it's his birthday tomorrow.
Papa G. Happy birthday.
Tomorrow is our second year of the podcast, going into year 3. It always gets confusing. But tomorrow's literally a 2-year anniversary.
That's right. This finishes season 2. Today's episode.
Remember we'll celebrate. COVID and Ian? Oh, what did he do? Ian hugged the ball and threw it at you?
Yes, he hugged the ball. Here, I'm throwing you a hug. So what I was going to say is I'm not a bear on the hobby. I'm as bullish on the hobby as you can be. But it's because I know I will be here in 2035. So with that, I know that what I'm buying, if I buy quality items, they will be worth more at some point in the future than they are now. You can't say that about Cole Anthony's base Prism card. You can't say that about, a lot of the stuff that came out, all of the Optic My House inserts and stuff. I don't know whether or not they're going to carry weight, and in the next upturn, people are going to be looking for those cards. That doesn't say that they're not. I mean, things happen, right? Kabooms were, laughable for a while. But I guess the point I'm trying to make, man, is you say, hey, people come in and they want to be millionaires in the industry. And this is part of the fun, right? And I don't want to be bearish. We could talk fun stuff in a second too, but it's part of human nature to look over your fence. It's part of human nature to
Home
say
improvement, right?
yeah, but in reality, right? It's like, well, that guy has a nicer car, and that guy's house is a little bit bigger than mine, and that guy's got this and that and this. But I leave my house earlier in the morning than him, and I come back later at night than him, and I'm smarter than him, and I work harder than him. How does the woman across the street have more money and better this than me and the whole deal? It happens in all walks of life. It also happens in the hobby. It happens to people who are trying to make money in the hobby, and they say, hey, I work hard. Why am I not making more money than these guys?
Because you're selling CSG slabs when he's selling triple logo mans, moron.
That's part of it, but take it down, a notch from there, right? I mean, it is, if you really peel back the layer, you say, how does that person become a millionaire in the hobby? We don't have to name names here, but if you talk about the people who are millionaires in the hobby or who have made millions, either on paper or on cardboard, whatever it may be, over the last couple of years, I think it would be pretty safe to say that 2 out of every 3, if not significantly more of those people, I think the number is very high. I'm being conservative here. 2 out of every 3 people who are millionaires now because of this hobby upturn are people who were in the hobby before the upturn. That there are very few people who were able to make millions who came in the hobby in the last year, 2 years, right? There are exceptions. There are breaking companies that kind of showed up out of nowhere, but even the big breakers who you look over the fence and say, hey, they're making money. Those are people who were here in 2012 and 2013 and 2014, and they couldn't give their stuff away and they couldn't fill breaks, right? You talk about this guy's got a suitcase filled with 4 million Michael Jordan cards. Okay, $4 million worth of Michael Jordan cards. Okay, but did you ask when he bought them?
Rips comes to mind. And it's such an ageless game too, because it's the guy. Remember he showed us his PayPal certificate from 2013 or 14, whatever.
And the Giannis was like $300.
Giannis Prism Silver BGS 10 for $299, and I think there was actually another card in it, which was like a 30, 40, probably $50,000 card at its peak. They were able to accumulate the best stuff for 8 years, 9 years, and then sell. And I don't know if it's sold, just to be clear. And sell into the hype or strength.
So a lot of it is staying power, and you brought up Charlie Munger, right? But I mean, the old man in me wants to tell you and everybody listening that it's time in the market beats trying to time the market every single time. It's very difficult to time the market. Timing the market doesn't work, but time in the market will. If you look at every time we've had a recession, I think there's been 26 or 27 of them, the market has come back and made new highs every single time. Talk about the stock market, right? And right now it's not at a high. We're in a recession. Whether it's in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is, the track record shows that it will come back. You just can't sit there and say, well, I want to pick a stock right now that is going to be worth more tomorrow.
So for time in the market, a few things you need. You can't over leverage, right? Because when you're over leveraged, you're forced to sell.
Correct.
You can't let's forget you're using debt. You can't even use 80, 90% of your disposable income, because that's going to cause stress, anxiety if there's a downturn, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you recommend people to cash flow, right? So that they're able to stay in the market and use ancillary income to buy up the good stuff.
So if I had a virtual assistant, which I've been asking you to provide for me for 2 years now, okay? But if I had a virtual
Guys,
assistant,
I hope you appreciate how lucky you are with this show. Like every single day, and I don't think you miss, man. I don't think I could maybe count on one hand some episodes where you were a 7 out of 10.
maybe 7.5,
Maybe.
strong 7.5,
Yeah,
solid
strong-
7.5.
Yeah.
When I had COVID, baby. Even then, I was trying my best. We owe it to people. People are going to give us time. You got to do it. But listen, if I had a virtual assistant, here's what I would do. Okay, I would go back and I would find the episodes last year, early this year, before everything crapped out, where I was saying what I was doing, right? And it's not too late to do this, right? Step one, take a look at what you own, all right? And be honest, right? Like you have a look in the mirror at yourself. Be honest. Is this a card that I really want to hold right now? Is this a card that if it goes down 10, 20, 30% in the next year, I'm okay holding it because I have conviction that this particular card in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years is going to be worth more, significantly more. If it's not, put it in one pile. If it is, put it in another, and do that over and over and over again with every one of your cards. And you know what you're going to get? You're going to have 2 piles. I did it. I sold Jordan inserts. Who the hell sells Jordan inserts? But there were ones that I thought to myself, if I put that in this pile and I liquidate now those cards, especially some of the other prisms and you name it, if I liquidate those cards now, I can use that money. I'll have the cash flow. I'll have liquidity. I don't want to use all of it, but to buy something that fits in the pile of I'm holding this.
Even if it's like 40 cards in the pile of like I'm not sure, and it's 1 card in the pile of I am.
Yeah, because the 40 cards that are in the pile of I'm not sure, you sell those. You sell every single one of those. And even if you turn it into 2 or 3 or 5 cards that you are sure about, or 1, whatever it may be. I mean, we always talk about diversifying, but I've talked about it. I've done it. You know what I mean? And we've had episodes where it's like sell at a loss. That was the title of the episode. And I've done it. But had I held the cards that I sold, I'd be taking more of a loss now. And sometimes you have to do that.
Let me ask you something on that. So in my 20s, I decision making, right? We don't think about that is a skill, but decision making is a hugely important skill. And I created like a foundation for it. If it's not a hell yes, it's a no.
Okay.
What criteria do you have? Because that sounds easy in theory, one pile or another. But usually and a lot of times you're kind of in that middle.
Yeah, true.
Is it like if it's not a sure, yes, this is going to be I believe in this, you put it in the sell pile?
So if it's that 50-50, right? All right. Usually I ask one question, and then I'll say I would do 2 things. The question I would ask is, is this something?
You cut the card in half. You say half the card goes to the
like King Solomon. No, I asked the question, and is this something that I'm 50-50 on because it's something that I am 50-50 on, or is it something that the hobby would be 50-50 on? And usually that gets rid of a chunk of those cards.
What do you mean?
If I polled 100 people in the hobby about that one card that I'm 50-50 on, would they also put it in the same category? Or is it something that subjectively I am not ready to sell? Is it a Devontae Graham card and I like him, but 99 out of 100 people would say the hell with that? Is it a card that I graded?
Don't buy what you love. This is a buy what you love and people will love.
Buy what, if you hold a year, 2 or 3, there's going to be more people than just you who are going to want to buy it. All right. And if you can't do that,
East Coast said that, remember too? He's like, I'm not just buying to buy Griffey. I'm also buying with the idea of, will someone want this card in the future? I love the Griffey, but I'm also asking the question, will somebody else, I think he was Jeter, not Griffey, but will someone else want this Jeter card?
And here's the fun part, right? You can, if you have a half dozen cards that are in that, I don't know which pile to put them in. First of all, you can leave those, because you're going to wind up with cards that are in the pile of sell. Generate some liquidity, you name it. You don't have to, be all or nothing. But if you want to make a decision on those 6 cards, take a picture of them, post them on Instagram, put them in your story. tell people, hey, I'm not sure about these cards for a long-term hold. What do you guys think? You never know. Somebody might offer you something on it that's more to your liking. Maybe a trade for a card that you would definitely put in another pile. Maybe you sell the card for more than you thought it was going to sell for. Or maybe you hear crickets. Maybe you hear, why are you posting that shit? Maybe you hear nothing. And if you hear nothing,
this is awkward. I did a WCC review yesterday and got like 3 comments.
You're hearing all you need to hear from the silence. Move those cards to the pile of get rid of. Because really what you're trying to gauge here is this something people are going to want when the money comes back into the hobby? This is the deal, man. This is the deal.
Gold. This is gold. I'm sitting here thinking I want to be in the present moment, but I'm like, I mean, people are getting their money's worth here, in the sense that you've been in this for 4 decades and you've learned a lot.
Yeah.
You probably made a ton of mistakes.
More than I care to admit.
Regardless, because you remember it back, instead of timing the market, it's time in the market. Even with all of those mistakes that you guys could go back and listen to 739 episodes worth of
and more.
And more.
I sold so much Conor McGregor shit.
Right. You're still a 6-7 figure collection. 7.
It's still
so think about that, guys. And it's I think there's a lot of value and a lot of learnings from, you kind of think of this all as all of our episodes kind of like little chapters in a book. Foreshadowing. I think
listen, layer in something here. As you're doing that analysis, it's okay to be wrong. And part of this whole thing that we're doing now with the make the piles, look at your card, do an analysis of your stuff, it's like I do pro and con lists. So still, I take a legal pad out and I write like what's good, like red light, green light, like what are the positives, what are the negatives, and you weigh it out, right? You know what? That's very robotic. And human emotion does play a role, and more so in our hobby than in other things. More so in collector. Remember, at base here, you're collecting cardboard with pictures on it of people you're probably a fan of, right? And in doing so, especially in what has happened in the last couple of years, your emotion is tied up not just in fandom, but in the whole, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to be right about it. And I'm going to sell it for more than what I paid for it. And maybe you're holding that card of DeAndre Ayton, or maybe you're holding that card of Bagley, or of who the hell knows who. You understand where I'm going with it. Kyle Lewis for me, right? I had to sell a shit ton of Kyle Lewis. And maybe you were.
Sometimes the hardest bag to sell is the one you're slightly profitable on. Even like I actually found that when you're wrong, there's points where you're wrong. But there's points where you're like, I'm into Cade. He's actually either flat or maybe even up a little bit. And I'm like, let me see if I can get just a little more.
Yeah.
You're in your gut. You're like, nah, I don't see it.
So I guess one of the things you have to do really is try to take emotion out of it. I learned this from Mike Vinegar in Pull Wax, right? He told me this.
The most emotional dude
on cards. No. And I remember he's like, you sell this card. And I'm like, no way, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, well, why do you like it? Why do you want that card so much? And I said, because it's the card I always wanted when I was a kid, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, okay, you can always get that card back. Sell it now. Take the emotion out. If the answer isn't because I think it's going to be worth more in 6 months, or that you can't buy it, or whatever it is, take that emotion out and get rid of it. Sometimes if you're losing money on a card, you're like, here's one of those lines that I can't, and we've talked about this, so I don't want to just kill it. It's already a long episode. I hate walking around at shows and hearing somebody ask someone, how much is a card? And the dealer at the table says the price, and the person trying to buy it says, that's way too much. I would give you this, like, and you'll even hear like, hey, recent comps are this. I'll pay more than recent comps. Like, I'll pay 10% more than what the last couple sold for because I really want the card. And the dealer will say, I can't do that because I'm into it for too much. You ever heard somebody say that? I can't sell that card for that because I'm into it for X. You have to take that out, right? That's a sunk cost, right? And this is for your own collection, right? It's difficult to say I paid $1,000 for this card and it's now $600. and I could get $600 for it, because that means you're losing 40%. You're losing $400. But the analysis, you have to take what you paid out, keep that record for tax purposes and the whole 9 yards, sure. But take what you paid out and look at the card and what it's worth now, and what you think it's going to be worth in the future, and what you can do with that $600. And is there something else you'd rather put that 600 and the next 300 and the blah into that has a better chance of, returning money in whatever time frame you're looking to do, or get you in a card you want to hold long term? This is what I've basically been doing for the last 12 months. I said it leading into the end of the year. I'm going to get my collection down to, 25 cards. I'll tell you guys what all of them are, and that'll be all I own. You know what I mean? Right now, my PWCC vault has 7 cards in it.
Mike Trout Gold, PSA 10 from his rookie year. Montana 10.
Montana rookie. 10. There's a Rice rookie 10, yes. A Montana
Duncan
rookie.
Gold.
The Duncan Gold, yes.
Jordan Fleer 10.
No, I have that at home.
People know that.
It's okay. I got booby traps everywhere. I'm like Data.
You have Bowman? Mariano Rivera?
Mm-mm.
No, you sold all of them?
I have one, but not in the vault.
So that is true. So this is where the gravel hits the road? No, the rubber hits the road.
The rubber hits the road.
Cage loved that card. Loves Mariano Rivera.
I loved it at $400 or $500, and I sold it at $1,750, $1,500, $1,200. I sold as much of them as I can. I mean, I bought 36 of them. When I was telling everyone to buy these things.
I think you sent a few as a gift, which I thought was.
I've given away a ton of them.
Which is craziness. That's just like the ultimate flex.
But that card, if it keeps coming down, will be one that I move into the pile of. I think we'll go back up. There are plenty of cards like that.
You know how it moves. I often think a lot of these. I think assets in general have more of a rhythm than people realize. If you before you buy, if you watch list, you kind of. It's easier with stocks because they chart the hell out of them. I mean, card ladder doesn't mean, but it does have this rhythm that you could figure out. And if you're in it, you know it even that much more. Luca Nation, 47 minutes. This is one of those episodes that's so information dense that I would go back and maybe listen 1, 2, or 3 times, right? We only remember 10, 15, 20% of the data. You guys know this from school. You could have been in class for 50 minutes. The teacher was doing his thing. But you come out, you're like, fuck, I remember this, and this, but I need to re-listen to it. I think this is one of those that's so dense in information, you're going to want to go back.
The goal, by the way, of this is not for you to run screaming from the hobby. Not to be like, wow, this guy's such a bear. Right? There's no money to be made.
Do you get those messages? Because that's absolutely not the vibe at all.
I do. I get, hey, we listened to your message. Wow, it's a really somber tone. Like, should I just sell everything? I get that all the time.
No, those people are not sophisticated enough to be in the hobby, and they're going to leave.
That's not true. Before you do all the crap we just talked about, you have to ask yourself, what do you want out of the hobby? Just like you have to ask yourself, I'm tying this all together, brother. What do you want out of what you're doing? Do you really want to make $1 million? Because if you want to make $1 million, you're not getting there with what you're doing. You want to make $1 million?
Guys, I'll tell you, Cage and I have got into it quite a bit in these 2 years and got into it. We love each other, respect each other, but it's like I don't always – the somber tone or whatever those messages are because Cage likes to see people win. Yeah. More importantly, he doesn't like to see people who are trying to get to their goals, but he knows they're going to run into a wall on the way there and break their freaking face.
I will say this, and you clip this from every way till Sunday. People who buy the right things in the hobby, who have been here for a while, they will make money in the hobby going forward. People will do better in the hobby. There will be some point in the future where there are cards you can buy now that will be worth more. I know that's just, a stupid generalization. You have to buy the right cards, and you have to be willing to wait. If you are somebody who looks themselves in the mirror and says, that's not why I came into this hobby. I came here because I liked the quick flip. I came here because there was money to be made in a quick boom, boom, boom kind of thing. And that's what you enjoy. Maybe go to breaking. You know what I mean? Maybe, you can still make money, but there's a gamble. Maybe you'll get into 10 breaks a week And if you hit on 2 of those 10, maybe you can make some money doing that way. Maybe you get the rush of that kind of, gamble, quick fix, hit kind of stuff. I believe that the market, is trending away from where it was the last couple of years, where you could come in and just buy and immediately resell for more money.
I'd like to say from personal, like, self-awareness is a great skill, knowing oneself, basically. So the people with those somber tone messages, I'm one of the I think I'm a very optimistic person. But if you stay in optimism, you become naive.
Yes.
So if you don't understand that you need people around you who also take your optimism and say, okay, keep your optimism, but understand the reality of the situation. If you don't understand and know yourself enough to, instead of being like, hey, you're a cynic, being like, hey, what can I take out of this that might help guide my optimism in the right direction? You're really missing out.
You want me to lead the horse to water? Or what
Please.
do we tell people to do here? What do we do with the water? And
we lead horses to water and then teach them how to drink.
We lead the fish to the water. Remember
That's
that?
Right. That's right.
We lead the fish to the water, right? Come on, don't.
Dude, there's so many frogs in this little lake next to me. These frogs, they're the cutest things ever. And I was jogging the other day. Dude, the frogs, they're like pretty sizable. And it saw me coming and it started like frogging away. And it couldn't move fast enough and it hit its face on the concrete.
You scared a frog and injured it. Well done.
Well, at night they come out. I think it's a little colder and the bugs come out, so that's when they eat them. But there's like a running trail around this little lake. And I was running at night, and the frog was there, and it saw me come in, and they're trying to get away. I was never going to hurt a frog. I think they're the cutest. But it couldn't skip away fast enough. And on one of its skips, it couldn't get its feet out in front of it, and it face planted literally right into it. It was hilarious. Obviously, it didn't hurt. It was like
contrarian here, leading a fish to water. Right, because sometimes you just got to tell people an idea, right? You say, "Oh, well, fine." When the market is this way, I'm a contrarian investor. I'm somebody who looks. What I try to find are areas of the hobby or any other investment area where everyone is beating the shit out of it, but the fundamentals are there. So what we just talked about is that there's going to be this kind of like a headbutting here in the hobby of the people who are willing to wait. And the people who want that quick, instant gratification, that liquidity. And I'm talking to you, Collectible and Rally. Nobody's looking there right now because everybody's expecting liquidity. Everybody's beating them up. There's Twitter, arguments being made about like, why would you do this? Why would you invest in this? And you put your money in, and you can't get your money back out. There's no liquidity. I believe, and it's just one example. Remember, I don't have a collectible account. I'm not invested in any of these things, so I'll say that up front. But I would be taking a look now because everybody's kind of running from those things because there's no liquidity. If you have that longer term view and you're going to be willing to put your money in and not expect it out in 6 months, not expect it out in a year, and you're willing to hold those platforms right now at potentially some items at a discount, allow you to get your investment money into high quality assets where no one's really looking at them. And yes, it may be difficult for you to get that money out in the next month, 6 months, definitely not at a profit, depending upon, but in a year or 2 years, depending on the economic situation, the whole deal, a Mickey Mantle PSA 8 or, a comic book or, whatever it may be, that the offerings that are there that kind of have gotten, baby thrown out with the bathwater and the liquidity stuff, you're in now a quality asset. You've got a longer window of investment. And I think that, right now, no one's really looking at this. And as long as you understand that maybe those platforms are not supposed to be generating instant liquidity for you to buy and day trade those items, maybe you're supposed to be able to get in. And if you have a longer vision of the investment, maybe that's a place to kind of look. Just throwing it out there as leading the fish to water.
One of my favorites, for sure. I think there's a lot that you guys could take away from this. Realistic expectations.
Good. Yep.
Foresight, thinking long term instead of day to day.
Yep.
Really auditing your collection.
Yep.
My 30-second take on DeAndre is going to be this.
Yeah, we got to get to that, right?
You guys remember that girlfriend you had, whether high school, college, maybe after. You knew it was a fucked up relationship. You guys broke up. Let her go. Then you saw her with some other guy, and you're like, fuck, I want her back. You get her back, but you still know it's fucked up.
All right. My 30 seconds is you got all you needed to know about Kevin Durant to the Suns. When you saw what happened yesterday, what you were told by the actions of the Suns were that they were nowhere near a deal for Kevin Durant. Because this signing of DeAndre Ayton makes it tougher for a Durant deal to happen now. It doesn't make it impossible.
I thought, but how? They need trade bait. If they let Ayton go, they wouldn't have anything to offer for him. But Ayton can get traded for a year.
So the deals where Ayton could potentially go to a third party and draft picks and other things were coming from the Suns to the Nets. Clearly, there wasn't much in the way of traction on that. And
they didn't let him walk and lose the trade asset.
Once that happened, 100%. But this is one of those things, right, where that Indiana, deal did not come out of nowhere, right? That Indiana, offer. The Suns have had time to kick the tires on Durant and get other teams involved in the whole deal. Now Ayton can't be traded, right?
Unless he wants to go.
100%. And here's the other thing, just a real layer on this. This was the fastest that a match has ever been done in the NBA. It actually took the Suns 3 minutes to match the Pacers. That's what it was. And here, because it was a fake signing. It was not a real. The Pacers never expected to actually land Ayton. And here's what I'll tell you. People don't know the nuance of this. Here, a little fun stuff. You can put terms in that offer sheet. And those terms then also have to be matched. Terms like a balloon payment, that if he signs for $132 million, the second he puts a pen to paper, we owe him $10 million. You can put no trade clauses in. You can put all kinds of stuff like it's a 4-year contract, but he has the ability to request a trade or get out of the contract after 2 years instead of 4. You can put all of these things in there. It's sort of like what is known in the world of finance as a poison pill. Remember we talked about that, right? Those can be put on there. If you really want the guy, you put those on, you attach them, and it makes it harder for his team to sign a matching sheet because they have to match the terms. Do you want to know what terms were on the Ayton qualifying offer from Indiana?
Kendall Jenner comes with him.
0. They didn't add anything in there. It was the easiest decision for the Suns to make for exactly what you said, which was they can't just let him go for nothing. You know what I mean? They can't get nothing for him. So
he's not a bad player. I mean, I think his stock has been beaten up a little bit this season, but not bad. You're very fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting stuff, So, I mean, I also think it makes Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks probably more likely.
6 first-round picks?
I mean, that's not going to happen either. But
kind of an absurd amount of picks, no?
But, the
Knicks have never had a good first-round pick anyway.
Correct. They waste their picks. No, I think, Mitchell being part of a Suns trade and the whole 9 yards is now also, a less likely thing. Listen, we'll see what happens. Durant may stay there. I mean, the Suns' initial offer may become more attractive to the Nets when there's no other offers and Durant forces them to take it. You never know. So, but yeah, I mean, we definitely need to comment on that because we did our episode yesterday, and by the end of it, it was almost kind of like, moot. No Ayton to the Pacers. He's cardboard relevant again. Guys, before I go on the somber tone, I love the hobby, and I can't wait for the National. I can't wait to see you guys all there. And maybe you could take some of the the tips from today and walk into National with a little more liquidity, a little more laser focus on what you want your collection to be, and maybe you're able to make some moves at the National, some trades, some buys, some sells. That help you, position your collection for, success in the long term.
Guys, help us help you. I know very few. I'm not going to compare it to anyone. I do everything in my power to over-deliver, even at my own peril. But there's only so much I can do if you guys don't follow instructions. Now, this isn't anyone specific, and it's not anyone's fault, but just it's a daily podcast, but we also mix in announcements. Remember that we mix in those announcements. If you follow the directions, it will be to your own help. Like
Yeah, it's your own benefit. And for the folks who are asking about cigar night now, after the guest list is closed and all that other fun stuff, and after we spent a couple of weeks, telling people you got to see it, email us and the whole 9 yards. Stay tuned, all right? Because if you're coming to National and you are, looking to hang out, smoke cigars, you name it, I have a feeling I'll be able to accommodate you guys as well. I'm bringing a lot of damn cigars. I'm going to be there from Wednesday to Sunday. So, no one's going to get left out. It's not how we roll here. We don't leave anybody out.
So thank you all for listening to another episode of Lucas, Tigers, and Bronzo Mai. I wanted to tell you about a new service that we have starting as of today, and I'm really, really excited to bring it to you guys. So as a part of our partnership with SGC, we got 50 free submissions every single month. And many of you have taken advantage of that. And it's amazing that we could have the opportunity to 650 episodes, 675 episodes in, to go ahead and give back to our community. As people were sending those cards in, they asked, can we send 5, 10, 20 more cards to you guys? We'll pay for it, but we wanted them graded with SGC. You guys know SGC is turning cards around in 13 to 14 business days, have incredible customer service, and their secondary market values are going up day after day after day. And that's exciting for the hobby and exciting for the grading landscape. So we didn't want to just rush into it. We wanted to do it right. And what we did was I relocated here to Boca Raton, Florida. I opened up a P.O. box maybe 5 minutes away from SGC, and I will be hand delivering and hand picking up the cards. So you don't have to worry about anyone else touching your cards. It will be me, and I will update you every step of the way. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to personally pick up the cards from a P.O. box, prep them, new card saver, new penny sleeve, and deliver them to SGC every single Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Well, it lets the stragglers over the weekend come back through on Monday and gives me a day to prep, and it basically gives SGC the entire week to work on grading those cards. Once your cards pop, only then at the end of the process will you be paying for the service. It's $25 per card, simple as that, and the turnaround times have never been faster. We're hearing right now 13, 14, less than 20 business days. So there it is. 9170 Glades Road, number 135 is the P.O. Box in Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. 9170 Glades Road, number 135, Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. Of course, you could shoot me an email or shoot me a text anytime, and I'm always available. Many of you already have my email. It's iamandrewgoldberg@gmail.com. or my cell phone number, 215-519-9154. Reach out with any questions. I could walk you through the process. I've hopped on the call with quite a few of you, and I'm happy to do that. Love you, Luca Nation.